And in other news, today marks the 14th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks that many people say changed the world. Reporting from New York City is Derrick Broze, who says the public is still asking the important questions.
As the world marks the 14th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, activists, researchers, family members, and firefighters are hoping to educate the public about questions that remain surrounding the attacks of September 11, 2001. This evening in New York City, the organization Firefighters for 9/11 Truth will screen a documentary titled Firefighters, Architects, Engineers Expose the Myths of 9/11. The organization is made up of former and current New York firefighters and supporters from fire departments around the nation who question the official version of events. Founder of Firefighters for 9/11 Truth and former firefighter Derrick Broze is also hosting a World Prayer for Peace to mark the 14th anniversary. Tomorrow morning, organizers will host a symposium called Declassify the Truth, 9/11 Transparency on the Rise, which promises to evaluate legislation in Congress that seeks to declassify 28 pages of 9/11 evidence and the political repercussions approaching the next presidential election. This event will also feature surviving family members of the 9/11 victims, including Bob McIlvaine, whose son Robert McIlvaine died in the World Trade Center towers. Also appearing for the first time will be a survivor of the North Tower, Henry Pavlock. Pavlock recently released a fiction novel called One-Way Elevator about his experience in the North Tower and what led him to question the official story. Derrick Broze, Henry Pavlock, and Bob McIlvaine, as well as other family members and firefighters, are part of what is sometimes derogatorily known as the 9/11 Truth Movement. There is no official position within this loose-knit movement. Rather, you will find a mix of opinions, theories, and ideas which often conflict with one another. However, despite the wide-ranging theories, one thing seems to be certain. All of the individuals who fall under this umbrella generally assert that the official story promoted by the U.S. government is full of holes. For 2015, these diverse ideas and theories will be presented with a significant focus on recent efforts to declassify 28 pages of the Senate report on 9/11. The 28 pages in question are a portion of the joint inquiry into intelligence community activities before and after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. Although the final report amounts to over 800 pages, these 28 pages were classified by former President George W. Bush shortly after the report was released in 2002. Former and current government officials who have seen the documents have stated that the information relates to the financing of the terrorists and points a finger at members of the Saudi Arabian government and possibly Saudi royalty. Kentucky's Republican Congressman Thomas Massie viewed the pages himself and said that there will be, quote, anger, frustration, and embarrassment when these 28 pages finally come out. In January 2015, Congressmen Stephen Lynch and Walter Jones stood with former Senator Bob Graham and families of the 9/11 victims as they announced the introduction of a House resolution which calls on President Obama to declassify the 28 pages. The resolution states that, quote, declassification of the pages is necessary to provide the American public with the full truth surrounding the tragic events of September 11, 2001, particularly relating to the involvement of foreign governments. The resolution has since received bipartisan support. Former Senator Bob Graham has stated that he is convinced the government of Saudi Arabia funded, quote, at least some of the terrorists who carried out the September 11th attacks. Graham is the former co-chair of the Joint Congressional Inquiry into the attacks. At the time of the classification, he was among 46 senators who signed a letter urging the release of the pages. The former senator recently told the New York Times that he was not going to give up on his pursuit of finding out who was funding the 9/11 attacks. Graham told the Times, "Number one, I think the American people deserve to know the truth of what has happened in their name. Number two is justice for these family members who have suffered such loss and thus far have been frustrated largely by the U.S. government and their efforts to get some compensation." Graham went on to say, quote, "To me, the most simple unanswered question of 9/11 is did the 19 hijackers act alone or were they assisted by someone in the United States? The Saudi Arabian government has vehemently denied any connection to the financing of the 9/11 attacks and continues to fight lawsuits from family members of the 9/11 victims. The organizers of this year's event and the family members who question the official story are hoping that by presenting evidence that counters the government's claims, they can create a change in the American consciousness, leading to the release of the 28 pages and a call for a new and independent investigation into the attacks of 9/11. On the 14th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, let us never forget those who died, but let us also not allow the financiers of this crime to go unpunished. For KPFT in Houston, this is Derrick Broze.